fighting a losing battle with tears and trifocals. So, this will be up here for a bit. Settle in, breathe deeply. Close your eyes if you want. We're going on a trip. We're traveling back to the Dixie of 1959. I'm your guide, and you'll be safe. But you'll see things and hear things that may offend you or dismay you. For comfort, I offer only a moment of magnolia-flavored grace at the end of the trip. Smell the air. It's warm and gentle, full of plant life, humus, rebirth and decay. Picture a tree-lined street with single-family homes, built not all at once, but over a period of decades. There's my house, the one with dogwoods at the curb and oaks at the property line. Come around back. That little shack you can barely see through the hedge, that's a slave quarters belonging to the columned Civil War mansion whose backside you can see poking through the wedgewood trees. We're not out in the country. We're smack in the middle of Athens, Georgia, a college town not unlike Pullman, Moscow. Yet our house sits in the woodlot of the former plantation big house on land my parents bought from the maiden sister survivors of the Carleton clan. That other sweet, fruity smell, that's an untended scuppernong arbor. It came with the woodlot. I'm a 12-year-old child, and slavery's ghost is everywhere. I absorb it and its Jim Crow stand-in through my every sense. I see the shacks and the mansions, and I feel it. A few years back, when I was littler, I held slavery's legacy in my hand, literally. My hand was in the maid's hand. And even after my family slid into genteel white poverty, we still kept her on. Not to look after her, but for her to keep looking after us. We could afford it. Her wages were small. She is black. For me, an of course statement. 12-year-old me still thinks all maids are black. It will take me years to start picking that apart. I hear the ghosts in the music around me. Ray Charles creating What'd I Say? Alvin and the Chipmunks rendering Ragtime Cowboy Joe. I taste the pepper in Lula Mae's meats. I smell the fatback in her greens. She serves me in our living room with a mahogany table, lace tablecloth, and china. Grace is said. Lula Mae comes from the kitchen when Mom rings a little silver bell. When the family is done, she eats her meal outside on a splintery, unfinished picnic table. All the requisite attitudes seep into me through osmosis. By 12, I know black people are different from white people. I'm supposed to call them colored people because we're polite. In a few more years, some whites will call them nigras. These are well-meaning people who haven't got a clue, who don't want to seem low class, but also don't want to be ostracized by their friends for being overly egalitarian. I'm one of those clueless. Elderly black sharecroppers I pass on downtown sidewalks step down into the street gutter when I approach. Kids my age show off a new knife and proudly call it an alliterative digger. They don't say digger. Kids my age laugh and point at a black man in past its prime Cadillac, especially one flying a fox or raccoon tail from the radio antenna. Meanwhile, these same young'uns admire the fuzzy dice hanging from the rearview window of a white teenager's 40 Ford and say, when I get my license, I'm one of those children too. What happened to me? A black teenager jumped a fence in the summer of 1963, a fence both real and metaphorical. They watched two white kids play tennis on the whites-only high school, whites-only tennis courts. They could not attend that same high school, although they lived across the street. The more mannerly of the two boys playing asked the newcomer if they'd like to play. I'm left on the court with the black kid. At game's end, we lead the newcomer to a hose spigot for water. It's Georgia. It's July. It's hot. It's humid. White Southern people are notorious for our water fountains. One for white, an inferior one for blacks. Here, there's only the hose. We do not drink from the same fountain. Who drinks first? My friend Stan offers first drink to Willie. He declines. I decline. Stan declines. I accept, just to speed things along. Conversation erupts, surprising me. I've never talked with a black kid my age. The topic turns to bowling. Willie asks, have y'all been bowling? Stan and I look at each other in amazement. Everybody bowls. Everybody only has white kids in it. They teach us in PE, take us in school buses out to the bowling alley. Willie says, I've never been. Stan and I look at each other, still not comprehending. Athens is a small town. There's not that much to do. Willie says, there's no place I can go. And I start to bend.
Thank you. Here's what confounds me about the work of bending the arc of the universe. I think that work happens on a very granular level, which is to say, in moments like the one Jim just described, hearts change. As a result of compassion, as a result of genuine connection, we find the courage to admit our blindness or even our faults, and we commit to doing just a little bit better. Every heart needs to heal. Every person needs to be committed to the work of unlearning the many bad ideas that have infected our world for the last several millennia. And it can be sad and hard work, so sometimes we choose not to do it. But we here in this room, we choose to do the work. We choose to bend the arc. And to paraphrase part of what I said at the march yesterday, the values that drive this choice aren't political values or religious values or even American values. They are human values. It starts with the recognition that people are not things. Doesn't seem that hard, right? People are not things, not objects, not labels. They are precious beings. Light shines out of every life, no exceptions. When we see that light dimmed by suffering and injustice, we want to see and recognize the light that's there, but we also want to create a better setting one that allows each person to achieve their full potential, to be the person they're meant to be. Can I level with you? I'm kind of tired of people getting upset at how sad and hard this work is. We need to stop valuing the hurt feelings of people who cause harm more than the hurt spirits of people who have been harmed. It's okay. It's okay to be uncomfortable. That's part of this work that we're choosing to do. Aisha Ansano has written a beautiful reflection on the Black national anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. She says, "This song deserves to be sung with attention. It's a song that starkly names the horrors and violence of racism in this country, and it's a song that should make us uncomfortable. Uncomfortable with the history that it calls upon, uncomfortable with the fact that the struggle for racial justice continues and has not come quite so far as it should have by now. How can anyone sing the words, treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered, without a deep, deep discomfort?" So when we sing this song, she continues, will you join me in singing with intentionality? Will you join me in the deep discomfort that I will be feeling in singing those words? Discomfort with the pain and the horror that those words refer back to, and discomfort with the fact that those words do not only refer to a distant history, but also to what is happening now. Will you commit to sitting with your own discomfort? And then will you tap into that discomfort and do something? Will you lift your voice and sing until earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty? Please open your hymnal to number 149 and rise in body or in spirit, prepared to be uncomfortable, ready to sing with intentionality and spirit. Thank you. So you are a very lucky congregation. The Reverend Teresa Inez Soto, your sabbatical minister, who arrives as I leave in a week or two, is brilliant and compassionate and knows a lot about bending the arc of the universe. Not only do they hold multiple overlapping marginalized identities, but they've done a ton of scholarly work, writing and reflection on these issues. Teresa is one of my teachers when it comes to the work we choose to do, and nothing would make me happier than to come back home in August to discover that y'all have moved past where I am. When it comes to the internal work required to dismantle white supremacy, patriarchy, and other oppressive structures that live in our hearts and our psyches, nothing would make me happier except if I were to come back to stories of all the ways you've gone beyond these walls to dismantle white supremacy, patriarchy, and other oppressive structures out in the world. Now, there's going to be a lot of tasks to handle around here when I'm gone. There will be coffee to make and leaves to rake and dishes to wash. There will be committees to serve on and classes to teach and sermons to write. There will be people to talk to care about, and help. And what I'm asking today is that in all of those tasks, you remember why we do this. The church as an institution only has value so long as it's serving that larger mission. What we do matters because we support the creation of beloved community, the realization of these dreams we all share. And the very granularity of this work makes it so that it can't be done by leaders no matter how luminary they are. Now, it might be that we would be further along if Martin Luther King Jr. hadn't been assassinated, if that particular bright light hadn't been snuffed out. We can't know. But what we do know is that the best way to honor his legacy is to follow his lead and keep doing the work. That means acknowledging the truth of our history. This nation was built on the blood and bones of indigenous people and African slaves. Remember when the reading suggested we talk about Red Summer? How many of you are familiar with Red Summer? In 1919, white supremacists rioted and killed hundreds of black people. All told, nearly 5,000 people died. Most of them were black, some of them were white sympathizer, but 5,000 people, nearly 5,000 people lynched in this country, and they think that that's actually underreported. That's Red Summer. And yes, anti-lynching legislation only passed last month. So we have to acknowledge the truth of our history. We also have to acknowledge the truth of our present. White supremacy culture is alive and well. It is crushing spirits and limiting lives in ways we're just starting to understand. Hate has come out of the shadows and into the light. And while we can hope that this is progress, that now that we can see it, we can address it, that these things are surfacing so that we can face them and heal them, we can't turn away. Rather, we're called to keep turning toward the vulnerable and the oppressed and saying, what can we do? How can we stand? How can we be with you? How can we support you? It means acknowledging the truth in our hearts. We make mistakes. We say and we do things that cause harm. We all do it. When someone tells us about the way we've harmed them, we need to believe them and accept responsibility. We can't get sucked into the blame, shame, denial, defense black hole. We just apologize and learn and do better. It means putting our faith in a better future. Yes, the work of unraveling structures of oppression is hard and granular and complicated and messy, but if we keep after it, it will get done. I learned this when I was 14 years old and I was working in a camp kitchen. I would face hundreds and hundreds of these gross and slimy dishes. You'd clean the mess in front of you, and then you put it away, and then you get started on the next. You keep breathing, you keep going, and at some point you look up and the dishes are all done. That's what it's going to be like. Now, the work isn't the same for all of us. We don't all have to march and protest. Sitting down with someone who's different than you and getting to know them is part of the work. Reading books and blogs and watching movies written by people and made by people with marginalized identities is part of the work. Making mindful choices with how we spend our money is part of the work. Participating in the political process is part of the work. It doesn't matter as much what part is yours. It matters that you identify it and that you do it. Your light. The light I see in each and every one of you. It is so bright and so beautiful. You are strong and wise and caring. You know that mistakes are okay as long as we learn from them. You know what is right and what is wrong. And I know that you will do what is right. So keep on moving forward, never turning back. Keep bending the arc. Remember that I love you. Remember why we are here. And above all, remember that in the end, love always wins. So be it, and so may it be.